This now iconic photo of a Houston nursing home paints the harsh reality of the hurricane damage on its elderly victims. And now in Florida, with massive power outages, at least 8 people are reported to have lost their lives in a nursing home that lost its air conditioning. And the reports are out that while workers were trying to evacuate more than 100 residents from a nursing home, they found tips inside to be like an oven. And beyond the at least 8, 40 in poor condition. And you know, with the elderly, particularly if you're in a nursing home, and if you're not in medicine, you may know this, but the elderly's ability to regulate their body temperature is so much less than a normal, healthy individual. And we've seen this happen before, so devastating. Of course, everyone's asking how. How could this happen? Beyond the fact the AC went down, how could this have been prevented?
This is so infuriating to me. Like, it scares me, it enrages me really, because this was so preventable. And you've got 3.5 million people in Florida without power. This backup generator doesn't work. They already knew it didn't work. The hospital is 50 feet away from this particular nursing home. And I was listening to Jeff and Stacy Nova, the brother and sister, and their mother is one of the 8 who had died. And she wasn't even that old. And the nursing staff gave their contact info to a reporter who told them that their mother had died. Like, they just don't know, they don't have a sense of responsibility or communication, perhaps, but more importantly, to understand you work in a nursing home, where is your, like, just at least call 911 or shout out the front door to the hospital that's right there. Like, this has to be fairly obvious when people are getting, like, their mental acuity is slowing and they're not responding very well. I mean, these deaths were entirely preventable.
And there should be, if they're not there, there has to be policies and procedures in place to prioritize. Yeah. I mean, this storm affected everybody, and there are no excuses for anybody, but maybe they were trying to prioritize. They had other things they had to do. They had to deal, which isn't right. I'm not justifying it, but
I know, because what's a higher priority than keeping people alive?
I mean, did they practice any evacuation procedures? Were they not following them? Was there no template to follow? I mean, those are the questions that I have.
People are in a nursing home for a reason. People are paying money for a reason. It's because in situations like this, they are vulnerable and they can't do what they need to do to get themselves to safety. And so they are counting on the staff to do that. And I think,
and as you said, Travis, there's those 2 groups, the elderly and infants, that are so susceptible to overheating, dehydrating, and
when you're without power, obviously you have no air conditioning, but even something as simple as a fan. In medicine, we use the term wet and windy. If someone is overheating, you get them wet and wind. That will help your body's cooling mechanism to evaporate the sweat and the, like this. Yeah, and so anything even rudimentary would have helped here. And I know that in situations like this, resources are at a minimum. And obviously, we hope that there was no ill intent here, but there is a criminal investigation open. Obviously, the governor himself is very upset. Florida Governor Rick Scott said, "I am going to aggressively demand answers on how this tragic event took place. Although the details of these reported deaths are still under investigation, this situation is unfathomable. Every facility that is charged with caring for patients must take every action and precaution to keep their patients safe, especially patients that are in poor health." The reality of a lot of healthcare facilities is they have put an emphasis on the bottom line more than patient care. This is a tragic situation all the way around, but the more that happens in society, the more things like this may occur. I don't know if you all agree with that statement or not, but it's a reality in some places that all the steps aren't in place to take the best care of patients because that takes money.
And then you layer on a natural disaster, and perhaps they were understaffed. Maybe the staff weren't coming to work.
Trained. I mean, that's the other thing about the bottom line, because they are starting to hire more
overwhelmed with other issues.
Yes, and part of working with the elderly, and especially nursing homes, there's a lot of turnover in staff. And so there are some logistical issues here, but I'm hoping that there wasn't, like you were saying, Dr. Travis, any ill intent on top of it.
Well, the learning point here is that this is something that everyone knew was coming.
Right.
And that's where you would hope that in the future, if a hurricane is coming in, you know that you can plan so that people who are at risk, the elderly, the youngsters, the infants, that they are not put at risk.